Apollo. In addition to presiding over Delphi, Apollo had other responsibilities.
Three of the biggest and most important sanctuaries, which for various reasons had some claim to fame, were the sanctuary on the island of Delos in the Cyclades, the one at Delphi in Phocis, and the one at Didyma near the city of Miletus in Ionia, present-day Turkey.
Apollo is beautiful. He's the most beautiful male, as Aphrodite's the most beautiful female. He is the best athlete. He is a beautiful singer. He is strong and a marvelous archer. He's your perfect human being, your perfect male.
Apart from being the god of prophecy, Apollo was also the god of light and the god of the arts, music in particular. Important music competitions were often held at his sanctuaries. The worship of the god Apollo was one of the most popular in the Greek world. The oracles of Apollo were the prophecies the god handed down to believers. Apollo was the voice of Zeus, his father, and his oracles were therefore the will of the supreme god of Olympus. According to an Athenian edict of the 5th century BC, it was prohibited to be born or to die on this island. Yet Delos was not a desert island, for the city had many magnificent colonnaded streets, and judging from these remains, people used to produce, trade, and live there. When archaeologists started excavating on the nearby desert islet of Rhenea, they found a big necropolis with thousands of bones and burial artifacts, and it was there that the people of Delos buried their dead and where island women gave birth. No one was allowed to be born or die on Delos because the island was considered sacred. It was here, according to legend, that Apollo was born. Not much of the temple to Apollo remains today, but when it was built, it measured 100 by 46 feet. It also had a monumental statue of the god in front that was 26 feet high, higher than the temple itself. On the eastern side of the Aegean Sea, archaeologists excavating near the sanctuary at Didyma in Ionia, now Turkey, found the remains of two separate temples. The first was imposing and mostly still standing, while the second had only the foundation remaining, and it was turned 30 degrees more toward the north than the first. The first temple was erected much earlier, during the 6th century BC, and was later destroyed by the Persians in the war against the Greeks. Alexander the Great, king of Macedonia, and the first king to be called the Great, reconquered the nearby city of Miletus, and had a sanctuary built in the same spot in honor of Apollo. After the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus and the Heraeon at Samos, the Temple of Apollo at Didyma is the third largest building ever erected in the Greek world. Its columns, whose imposing structure and decoration can be appreciated to this day, were nearly 66 feet high and richly adorned. The god made ambiguous predictions through a medium that was either a priest or a prophetess. Responses were interpreted, and worshippers understood the oracle only after an event had occurred. In this way, the god never made a mistake. According to legend, after the temple of Didyma was rebuilt, the water of the sacred spring, which had dried up because of the plundering and burning by the Persians, started flowing again. The sacred spring and the laurel grove explained the unusual architecture of the impressive building that was mostly roofless and erected on 2 levels with 2 stairways, one to go up and the other to go down. It was on the Greek mainland where the most renowned center for prophecy in the ancient world was located, the sanctuary of Apollo at Delphi. It is said that Gaia, the goddess of the earth, was venerated in an earlier period at Delphi, and that the serpent Python guarded her sanctuary. According to myth, at a certain point Apollo grew tired of the small island of Delos where he was born, and roamed Greece in search of a suitable place to build a temple worthy of his stature. When he arrived at Delphi, he decided to erect his temple there, but had to take on the serpent Python that was the guardian. Apollo slayed it with his arrows, which is why he is often referred to as Pythian. The votive statues of Gaia, antiquity of the earlier period, demonstrate the existence of a temple dedicated to her, while the votive statues of Apollo prove the change in worship that occurred in the later period, and explains why they were found closer to the surface. Apollo's priests ended up influencing the politics of the time, and since they had power, they could be bribed. Greeks believed in the inevitability of fate, and sometimes would ask the Delphic oracle for confirmation of a prophecy heard elsewhere. The oracle did not cure souls, nor prepare anyone for the afterlife, but simply handed out predictions that could be translated into real advantages in everyday life. Besides being a place of worship, Delphi also played host to the Pythian Games, one of the 4 great athletic and artistic festivals of ancient Greece. According to myth, Zeus, the father of Apollo, released 2 eagles from opposite ends of the earth to discover the exact center of the world. They met at Delphi. To the Greeks, this was the navel of the earth, their center of the world. And Apollo was the brilliant god, the god of light and truth, the paragon of male beauty who embodied all the values they held dear, and who could guide them through their lives. It was to Apollo that the Greeks entrusted their future.